The beautiful thing about making content while also being a reseller is that sometimes you can actually, get to take a look at the things that you have done, in the course of the day. See, for example, I had shipped this PC out today and I felt like, okay, editing the videos and posting it for you guys, to see. I'm just going to be pausing it once in a while so that I can, kind of get this whole conversation, going. You see, trying to ship out this PC now, I would not have noticed some of these leakages, but looking at the content once again, trying to take a look at exactly what I did today, I was able to see that there are so many, leakage points, things I can actually do better in making sure that this whole PC gets shipped out as soon as possible. See, time is of the essence. When you begin to, sell on a platform like eBay, you want to commit to reselling, you are going to quickly realize something that, look, time is one of the most important resource that you have. You're going to be faced with a situation where you want to do a lot of things, but you no longer have time to do them. You're going to be constantly running against time. This is particularly very true if you have something going on in your life. Let's say you have, a job, you have a family. Things are just going to be so tight, especially when the business is really taking over. I'm talking about a situation where you are not actually selling things, but when you are selling things, you are going to pretty much realize now later that, look, time is going to be a problem. You're going to be running to the post office. You're going to have limited time to even list items on the platform. And because of that, one thing you want to do for yourself is to make sure that you are on your game when it comes to using your time. If you, go to your warehouse, I operate from a warehouse. It could be that you're operating from your kitchen or your garage. You go to your garage and you constantly waste time on irrelevant stuff. Guys, I'm telling you, a long time ago, I used to waste time looking for items. I come to the warehouse. Let's say this particular thing, I don't know what it's called, but I keep it somewhere. From nowhere, I can no longer find it. And because of that, sometimes I waste like 3 minutes just looking for it because I didn't have the systems that made it possible that, look, whenever I needed this thing, I needed to just go and grab it where it has been kept. I kept junking up things everywhere, because of stress, because of the pressure of the work. I didn't know that, look, it's always best if you can just set your processes right from the get-go because it's going to help you, especially when you are dealing with limited time. Of course, if you are a reseller that has a lot of time, let's say you do not have a full-time job or even a part-time job, things are pretty much already in shape for you. You can actually do exactly what you want to do. But if you are somebody that is always constantly under time pressure, yes, these are some of the things that you can actually do to help yourself. I noticed this on my own processes. When I brought out this PC, it was very, very dusty. Of course, there was no way I could have done this before this day because these are PCs that are kept in the warehouse, and over time, they tend to accumulate dust. I could possibly go ahead and already pre-wrap these PCs, but because of the kind of operation I do, I configure some of these PCs. Buyers have the option of choosing if they want to actually buy this PC with a particular type of a hard drive, SSD hard drive, particular RAM size, and so on and so forth. Because of that, there's just no way for me to pre-pack these PCs. And because of that, I have a situation where the PCs are kind of kept on the shelf, and in staying on the shelf, they tend to accumulate dust. And then if I take a look at this process here, I've actually cleaned it. Now I'm actually cutting this bubble wrap. See, this is something I can actually go ahead and pre-cut because, truth be said, you're not going to be 100% every day busy on your business. It's going to be that time where you're going to be chilling out. These are these little things that you can actually do. When I saw this, I said to myself, even though this is actually not a big time waster, but I could have actually done a better job by just, pre-cutting these bubble wraps, keeping them on a hanger because I really do have a place to store them so that whenever I need them, all I need to do is just to grab them and I am already gone. Because something I have noticed is that a lot of times the pieces I tend to pack, they tend to use a particular size of bubble wrap. So I could actually just go ahead and slice the bubble wraps and make it such that whenever I need to ship out a PC, I don't need to look for my scissors because sometimes one of the things I also noticed that I spend time, maybe looking for my scissors, looking for my cutter to just, cut something. And if you take a look right now, this is another area I can pretty much say is a very big time waster. Of course, I have already solved this, but for one reason or the other, over the weekend, I took the other sellotape home because my wife wanted to ship out something and she needed a sellotape. So I took this, sellotape roller home and I forgot to bring it to the warehouse. And because of that, I am having to use one sellotape roller for 2 tapes. That's a major, time waster. If you do not have time to do a lot of stuff that you want to do, you shouldn't be doing something like this. When I saw that, I was like, yes, it might have cost me about 60 seconds, or perhaps 40 seconds to change that, but that is a lot of inconvenience. And this kind of inconvenience, you do not want to entertain it, especially when you are having a very serious time pressure. You don't want to entertain that. You want to make sure that everything that you ever need, you already have them in place. If you tend to use 2 sellotapes like myself, because the sellotape I use for the bubble wraps, they are pretty much different from the sellotape I use, for the cartons. If you have this, attitude or this process of using 2 different types of sellotapes, make sure that you have 2 sellotape rollers so that you do not have a situation where now I'm having to change it all over again. And this, if you consider the first 30 seconds I spent in changing it first time, changing it again and even wasting the sellotape in the process, that is just a time waster, and you do not want things like that, to happen in your processes. Of course, the carton in itself is something I could also, pre-build, because these are cartons that gets delivered as flat sheets. I could also go ahead and just build them, keep them in a corner, because I already know that some of the pieces right here are going to sell, and I tend to use almost similar cartons all the time. If I have time, or if you also have time, you can actually go ahead and pre-build your carton so that whenever you have to pack out stuff and you just have a few hours or a few minutes to do that in the day, you can just go ahead and shoot off and make sure that the item is dropped into the box and the item just gets going. See, in pre-building the box, you can already prepare the base, because if I ship out pieces, I tend to want to put some, kind of padding on the base of the carton so that the piece is just going to drop on the base, it's not directly touching the carton. In that way, it also goes a long way to protecting, the content of the box. All right. So if you can prepare your box, to some extent, of course, it's not going to be possible for you to be able to prepare everything to the end. If you can already prepare your box, the size of boxes that you tend to use all the time, and you can already prepare it, it's going to help you, to also save time, the little time that you have to run this business. Because like I said, time is of the essence. It's not a question of how much can you make, it's a question of how much time do you actually have to do what you have to do. Of course, little packing paper like this, there's really nothing you can do about that. I tend to have this packaging paper just like a flat sheet on some box, but if you observe, I kept going back and front, trying to pick them from the ground. That should naturally not be, because the more time you spend, I'm just trying to take it back, the more time you spend going back and front to pick up these papers from the ground, you see, it doesn't really amount to a lot of time. But if you finally take a look, you will realize that if you are not careful, you would have spent about 5 minutes simply just going back and front. So a system where I have this packaging paper just by my side, I have the bubble wrap already cut, I can just take them, take the packaging paper, would have been a better system for me to actually save time. Since these are things I have done over and over and again, I already see how it works, or I already know how it works, I should be able to actually bring this packaging paper just on the side, so that I would minimize my having to go to pick them up, and bringing them back and doing stuff like that. Guys, these are some of the little things that you can actually put in place in your business to ensure that you save the little time that you do not have. Like I said, it's not about how much you can actually make, it's about how much time do you have to make this money. How much time do you have to list items? How much time do you have to ship out items? How much time do you have to source for items? I'm taking a look right now. There is also a little bit of a broken process here. When I brought out the labels, I realized that this particular label and the invoice wasn't corresponding to the item that was in the box. It was a wrong one, and I had to go back again to the printer to try to print out the right invoice and then bring it back. This is also something that can be avoided. The moment you have something to ship out, as soon as you pick the item from the shelf, try to see if you can already match it with the invoice, with the label, and that would have been the best thing to do. Of course, now I got the right one, and then I also got the cables for the computer, and then I'm putting everything in the box, and right now everything is good to go. Of course, these are not like terrible things, but I'm just saying, given the fact that I can actually watch this, you know, me packing this PC on playback, these are little things I can actually go ahead and take a look at, see how I can minimize, you know, them in the future. Of course, for you also trying to see how you can actually win in this game of reselling with the limited time that you have, you can take a look at your shop, take a look at your processes. You might not be a content creator, but you still have a way of documenting or noticing the steps that you take to ship out the items that you ship out. Of course, I also noticed something just towards the end. I'm just going to show you that it's also a very a silent point, but let's take a look at this. I open the label, I place it on the package, and I squeeze the paper, and then I threw it away. See, the more of this you do, you are ultimately going to cause a lot of chaos in your warehouse. There's going to come a time everything's going to be messed up, and you also have to spend time coming back again to make sure you clean the warehouse. And if you have limited time, this is pretty much going to become a little bit of a problem. What would have been the best thing for me to do? As soon as I remove the label from the sticker, whatever, sticker paper, whatever you want to call it, and I place it on the carton, I should normally take this paper and just throw it in the waste paper basket. And in this way, I do not have to mess up the warehouse, and I do not have to come around here again, spending 1 hour to make sure that things get tidy. Guys, let me know what steps you are taking to, you know, save the little time you're reselling business. I would love to hear about it. Go to the comment section, leave me a comment, and let's get this conversation going. Until I see you again in the next one, peace.